We are 5 months into the year 2021, and like we have always done, we as EnergyNewsAfrica.com looks for personalities in the energy sector, be it upstream, downstream, and the power sector, to have a conversation with them. So today we have on Mr. Henry Up-Akwaboah, who is the chairman for Association of Oil Marketing Companies. Mr. Henry Up-Akwaboah, you are welcome to EnergyNewsAfrica.com.
Thank you very much.
How is the going?
Not bad. As you rightly mentioned, we are almost halfway through the year 2021. The year starting on the back of COVID-19 hasn't been all that smooth. As you may know, petroleum products or fuel, for that matter, is part of a number of value chains across industries. So where COVID impacted on these industries, then automatically you found members or industry players in the downstream also suffering. But I would say that we are recovering. The recovery process is slow, but I think gradually we are getting there, and things are beginning to come back to normal.
How did COVID impact on your business in 2020?
Well, in 2020, of course, you are able to sell fuel when vehicles move, when people move, when production goes on. So largely we're looking at the retail sector and then the business-to-business sector. We saw many industries shutting down. In the process, their demand for fuel also went down. In the process, their ability to pay was also affected. So, of course, you had your sales being impacted. Then you also have your cash flow being impacted. To a large extent, of course, you also have your own obligations to your suppliers, to the government in the form of taxes that you've collected. I would say we were impacted on the cash flow front and also on the sales volume front.
Some went to the extent of introducing cost-cutting measures like laying down employees. How did the oil marketing companies fare in that regard?
Well, I think some of our members had to take those measures again. To in the interest of their respective companies, and I think most members were, as much as possible, able to keep their workforce. Get people still in employment. Of course, you always have a sustainability plan. When crises occur, that's when you fall on it, and I'm sure that is what most of our members did, to ensure that employment was not hugely affected, but contained.
And was there a situation where salaries of workers also had to be slashed, or managing directors or managers have to agree with management in slashing their salaries for the time being?
Well, of course, there had to be compromises here and there, especially for top managers. Some benefits had to be frozen, waiting for the right time to come. So there was, some of those measures were taken. I think largely in the interest of the company or the companies. That's when you're in crisis, those are the things you do to ensure that your future job is secured. So you have to sacrifice for a short while, and then when things come back to normal, of course, you get all the benefits that are due you. So yes, I know some of our members, they had to maybe reduce salaries. In some instances, salaries delayed, but it wasn't deliberate. Because these companies were in difficulty, and that was what they could do at that point in time.
And how were the managers or the employees agreeing to, even though nobody expected that we were going to enter into 2020 when would be met with COVID? How was their cooperation?
Well, I think most staff, thankfully, we're looking at the future, the long term. That do we is it eat the chicken with the golden egg now and forfeit growth, or what? So I think most employees bought into the idea that let's just sit tight for now. Let's make some sacrifices, and then once we are out of this crisis, then whatever is due us will be given us. So largely there was a general understanding from the employees, so to speak, because I mean you needed to see the bigger picture. You needed to see the long-term effect of. Look, I mean, if you are faced with a situation where, let's say, you take half of your salary and be employed for the next 5 years, or take your full salary and be employed for the next 2 years, which one will you go for? So I'm sure, exactly. So that was what most employees were faced with, and some of them, most of them, I would say, looked at the future and readjusted just so that you could weather the storm. And then once things stabilize, then whatever is due them will be given.
Okay. Earlier on, you made a statement that we all know that because of COVID, some measure has to be introduced to halt activities, and so transportation sector, for instance, was affected. How did that affect volumes of fuel that you sold as compared to when we were not having COVID?
There was a significant drop, I would say. That was, I'm sure, the country went through some restrictions, a lockdown, a full lockdown, I think, for 3 months. During that period, sales volume was awful. I mean, if you look at the major highways, there was no movement of vehicles. I mean, so that's vehicle on one side. Then also industrial activities came to a halt. Who was going to buy your fuel? So, and of course the prices on the world market also took a dip. Yeah. So we were in trouble. I mean, month on month, we were taking a hard knock. There was so much losses because you couldn't recover your cost fully. So if you look at the books of most of our members, the period March to June 2020 were very, very difficult months for most of our members. On top of that, like I said, if in our business you sell products on credit, so where you had one of your customers or a couple of your customers being affected by this, then it means your cash flow also suffers because they can't pay on time to you. So it was a multiple, I would say the effect or the impact came from different angles. It wasn't an easy time. So sales volume dropped significantly.
Government introduced some relief packages for businesses. Did your members enjoy it?
We did. Thankfully, we had a meeting with the GRA at the time. I'm looking at from a tax perspective, whereby every 21 days we have to pay the government the levies and taxes collected. The government gave us the leeway and said, I'm extending it to 45 days for you. And that brought some relief to us. But in terms of financial resources or call it short-term loans, our sector was not considered as one that needed it. For whatever reason. So as far as I'm concerned, our members did not receive any of such packages. But in terms of having some leeway with the number of days to pay the taxes, I think the government did very well to support us with the extension of the days from 21 to 45 days.
Okay. And now we are in 2021. How are you recovering? Even though we are still in COVID, how are you recovering?
Well, I think businesses some of them are bouncing back. I wouldn't say we are completely out of the woods. The effect of COVID, I'm sure, is going to stay with us for the next 2 to 3 years. Imagine, look at the entire value chain again. So we are caught in between. Just think of the time where flights were not coming into the country. Aviation fuel, who was going to buy them? So that suffered. Expansion projects, if you are taking a loan from the bank, it means you have to renegotiate your terms and many others. So, yes, things are coming back to normal, but the effect of COVID, again, is going to take a while it's going to take a while to wear off. We are still managing with it. Some of our members still have They are not, I mean, their cash flow, I wouldn't say is the same as it used to be maybe 2 years ago or a year before. So gradually we are recovering.
Yeah, we've also seen that over the years, the number of OMCs as well as retail outlets keeps on increasing. And now we find ourselves in this situation. How has it had an impact on the association, the members of the association, to the extent that some have to fold up or say we are calling it a quit because you move from let's say half a kilometer, there's a filling station, sales are dropping. Has it gotten to that stage where people have some of your members we are calling it a quit because of the situation they find themselves in?
Yes. First of all, if you ask me, the number of service stations in the country is more than what we need. I mean, if you're looking at
3,000,
it's about 4,000 now.
Okay.
So if you're looking at the land space of Ghana, for example, compared to Ivory Coast is much bigger. Ivory Coast has in total less than 1,000 service stations across the country. Ghana has about 4,000. So again, service station per capita is very, very high in Ghana compared to the size of the market. So indeed, of course, it's a free market whereby, I mean, you are free to come in and exit as and when you want to. But the rate at which service stations are springing up needs to be checked. I know the National Petroleum Authority put some measures in place whereby the distance between an existing site and a new one coming up was revised. We couldn't now site your service stations closer to each other, you know, so as it were cannibalize the existing companies' sales volume. If you ask me again, there are too many registered oil marketing companies in Ghana. The time has come for us to clean it up. Now, when the market is not growing at the rate at which new entrants are coming in, it begins to breed certain more practices. And that is all we've witnessed from last year into this year. People need to do anything to protect their investment, to see that they get decent returns on investment. That is in their view. But how do you go about getting decent returns on your investment? Of course, by selling more. And how do you sell more? In our case, if your prices are lower or cheaper, you tend to sell more. How do you ensure that your prices are lower or cheaper? Some people are evading taxes just so they can sell products at a relatively cheaper price. That is hurting the country. It is hurting the industry. There are a number of service stations. If you go up north now, I mean, there are some service stations that do not sell even 100 liters a day, or because they are charging the right price, or they are not evading taxes, and somebody next door to them is evading taxes and selling as low as 1 cedi cheaper than what they are selling. So, in my view, I think that the increasing number of players is leading to this, is creating that situation. The National Petroleum Authority, of course, may have their resources, but I think sometimes they're also overwhelmed, you know, in terms of monitoring, controls, and all that. Then, of course, you also have some bad nuts in the system who may have been compromised to aid the activities of some of these players. So it is a worrying situation. Many companies are folding up. Unfortunately, these are the legitimate companies that are folding up. The oil marketing companies remain a collection agency for the government. Now, if the legitimate ones who are collecting tax revenue for the government are beginning to go out of business, then the government should be worried and begin to ask who is going to be there for us. Because if you are left with these tax evaders controlling a chunk of the market, then, I mean, it's obvious.
Then you ask yourself, what really is influencing businessmen or business people to think that there is money,
Of course, I mean, with every
business.
with every business, if you do it legitimately, I wouldn't say there are opportunities in here, but opportunity is not when you don't. It's not when you do things the wrong way. Opportunity is not when you evade taxes to show a good profit. So of course, I mean, it's a viable industry, but people need to understand it before they come in. Again, there are also misconceptions around the industry. People think that the money that they pay at the pump is everything that goes to the oil marketing companies, but that is not the case. Oil marketing companies earn on average 2 to 3% of the price that you pay at the pump. So you need to sell more to be able to make decent returns. So I mean, people have all these misconceptions, and they tend to enter the industry, the sector. Now, when they come in and reality hits them, that's when they begin to do some of these things, which, again, I said is hurting the industry, is hurting the government. If you ask me, again, the amount of taxes on petroleum products, again, may serve as an incentive for some of these people to come in, because they know that once they're able to evade taxes, they make themselves richer by whatever component is in there as taxes. So it's something that the government needs to look at.
And I'm sure NPA as a regulator, which issues license to all these companies, they are aware about the number of filling station or retail outlet. The question then is, they've been to Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, and other neighboring countries, and they see what is going on there. So why are they still issuing licenses?
I don't think that what the National Petroleum Authority is a profit-making entity, or in as much as they maybe rely on their own internally generated funds. I'm not sure they would want to license many oil marketing companies just so they can take their license fee and all that. I'm sure that they've also got into a point where they feel that the system needs some kind of a cleanup. It has happened in the banking sector already, so why can't it happen here? Again, for me, I'm proposing, and there's something under discussion, that going for let's put a stop to the issuance of licenses. Let's see those people who are doing legitimate business,
but they are suffering,
or have the capability to do the business. We have people, registering OMCs left, right, center, using them for some of these tax evasion, whatever. Today you see company A selling so much volume, and interestingly, the next one does not sell a liter of fuel. And another company, you see another company's volume also going up. So what is really happening? The time has come for the NPA. I think that the entry requirements needs to be
more rigid, or
needs to be strengthened. I mean, it has to be a lot more rigorous. It's not just your ability to pay for the license that should allow you to come in. If indeed you want to come into the sector, demonstrate to the authority and to the larger stakeholders that, let's say you have 10 service stations ready. Maybe you have 10 business-to-business consumers or customers ready to buy from you. It is only then that I think the National Petroleum Authority should issue a provisional license. Then based on your activities for the next year or two, then you can get your full license to operate. So let's look at it from the entry point. How do we sanitize that area? How do we make it? We shouldn't just allow anybody to come into the industry. This industry, if you cast your mind back to 10, 20 years ago, was highly respected. Some of the news items about some oil marketing companies now leave much to be desired. How can you be selling and not be paying taxes, not be paying the Senate contribution and all that? So sometimes I read the news and I tell myself, this is not the industry we want. We want people, players who are going to abide by the rules and regulations, be law-abiding, support the government. This sector is very important to the growth of the country. I mean, look at the price build-up. You have the road fund in there, you know, and all of them are, we want good roads to drive on. So if you are not able to collect these monies for the government, then we are not helping the country and the government at large.
So how you want MPA to put a stop to issuing of new license and make their entry requirement more rigorous? Beyond making this appeal, what step is your association going to take to ensure that these things comes to fruition? Okay, so we have been engaging the NPA, the GRA, the Minister of Energy, and the Minister of Finance. We're going to have a meeting with him soon. We are in discussions already. We have proposed certain measures to the NPA, to the GRA, and to the ministries. So first of all, we are asking that the GRA going forward should stop this tax exemption that they give some oil marketing companies, because we've realized that they are abusing it. There are certain government agencies and organizations who are not supposed to be charged taxes when they buy petroleum products. So our proposal is that let the OMC supplying these companies pay the taxes. When they have proven to you that indeed products were supplied to these companies, then they can come for a refund. That's one of them. At the association level, we have this peer review mechanism we have started. Again, we are beginning to look at the industry numbers month on month, the sales volume per oil marketing company, to see whether it's normal or not. Where it is not normal, we ask the NPA questions. We request for more information. Because remember, anything that one company does which is not acceptable affects the other. So why should we sit down when you don't own a particular outlet, yet you are able to supply products to that outlet? These are the checks that we want to put in place now. So we are having a meeting with the NPA sometime this week or next week to discuss the proposals that we have presented to them and see how we begin the process of sanitizing the industry. That's a good step that the association is taking. As we are preparing to end this conversation, as an association in 2021, how are you adjusting yourself, or what are some of the challenges that you think that if you are able to deal with them, it will position you well? Well, for now, my key focus as chairman and by extension the association is to begin this process of sanitizing the industry. This process of making sure that there's a level playing field for everyone. And it doesn't mean that we have targeted any business. You only become a target if you are not playing by the rules. And we cannot sit back and let a few individuals or few companies bring the industry down to its needs. So first is my prime focus now is to make sure that there's a level playing field whereby everyone pay the taxes imposed on petroleum products. Every member is given the same number of days that is required to pay their taxes and levies. An association that does not condone any wrongdoing. We have set up an ethics committee, ethics and complaints committee, to look at some complaints that may come that we can deal with at our level. We're also collaborating with the National Petroleum Authority to inform us when any of our members fall foul of their regulations. I think there are a number of cases pending at the MPA. Once they are dealt with, we are also going to deal with our members. It's not like we don't want to collapse your business or anything, but rather to get you to do the right thing, as long as you are under our umbrella. So it's a tough battle. It's not been easy. There's this thing called third-party supplies, which the Vice President spoke about and has issued a directive that it be halted. So thankfully, the NPA has done that. We think that is also the beginning of the process of sanitizing the industry. You cannot just come into the industry
with fewer than 10 service stations and be selling more volume than the likes of Goil, Shell, Total, or any of the big companies,
or your company Engen,
or Engen, or Puma, or name them. You need to go about your business in the right with the right approach or in the right manner. We can't sit back for people to do that. So that is the direction going forward. Of course, challenges will come in every day, but we'll deal with them as and when they come. Recently, the GRA, for example, is asking some of our members who have insurance bonds, against their tax obligations to now post bank guarantees. We feel that this is going to be a burden on some of them, so we are going to engage the GRA to review their stance and see another way or a different type of security, which will not be too costly to our members, so that they can also go about their businesses normally, and of course get the returns that they have planned to get.
Yeah. Your final word to oil marketing companies who are engaging in wrongdoing and the public as well. Many times when fuel prices are adjusted upwards, people think you guys sit here somewhere and you do it. What is your final word to both the consumers and your members? Well,
to the consumers, they are the reason why we are in business. We want to thank them for their custom. As an association, we would always have their interests at heart. We will make sure that our members do business in a way which also serves their interest. I mean, in terms of poor quality products, we've encouraged and urged our members to ensure that they ensure strict conformance to all the safety and the quality protocols in the industry. To my members, I urge all of you, let's do the right thing. Let's pay our taxes. Let us not collapse other people's business. Let us not send products to service stations, outlets that do not belong to us, unless there's authorization. To those engaging in activities, that are not acceptable, either by law or by practice, I urge you all, there's a right thing to do. If you do the right thing, you can still grow your business. You don't have to do the bad things just to grow your business. I mean, let's put a stop to all the illegal activities going on in our industry. I call on the security agencies to also ensure that products that come through our ports that are not properly declared, I mean, they need to deal with it. I call on the GRA that they should ensure that every liter of fuel that leaves any depot is accounted for, and the appropriate taxes are paid on them.